Are you worried about eating too much fat on a ketogenic diet or on a carnivore diet? You don't need to worry about that. Welcome to Shapefixer. I'm Andrew. I'm a nutritionist. I have been on ketogenic diet for about 4 years. I've been on a carnivore diet for about 1.5 years, which is really a version of a ketogenic diet. Those diets need to be high-fat diets because you don't eat carbohydrates or sugars. So if you're not eating sugar, your body needs to get its energy from the fat that you eat. So you need to make sure you're eating enough fat. And one of the most common questions I get is, how do I know that I'm eating enough fat? And another common question is, what will happen to me if I eat too much fat? So I had someone ask me that this morning, and I was about to send them an explanation, and I realized this would be a good idea for not a very long video, just to talk about those exact points. Now, I have done videos on fat before. I'll link some of them below here if you want a little bit more information and you want a deeper understanding of what fat actually is and how it works. But to address those two questions, the first thing is, how do I know if I've eaten enough? When you are properly adapted to your ketogenic diet, whether that's a carnivore diet or whether you are still eating vegetables, your hormones work really, really well, and your satiety hormones, which are the hormones that basically put you off food because you've had enough. Most of those hormones come from your fat cells. So as your fat cells get full of spare fat, which is your energy supply, they release hormones like leptin to tell you to stop eating. So you lose interest and you stop. So your own hunger and satiety system works really well if you're not eating carbohydrates. Mostly that's because when you're not eating carbohydrates, you're not pushing your insulin up, and it's insulin that interferes with those hormones. So the first point is that if you listen to your body and you eat according to what you want to eat and when you want to eat, and don't eat when you're not hungry, it's highly unlikely that you will eat too much fat. Okay, but the next question is, what happens if I do eat too much fat? Right, what does too much fat mean? I guess it means more fat than your body needs. So now you're overriding your satiety signals and you're eating it even though you don't really feel like it. Maybe you're eating it because you're a bit paranoid or because you've been told you must eat lots of fat. So you're kind of forcing it down and putting extra butter in your coffee when it doesn't really appeal to you. That's fine. Because what happens to fat when you eat it? In your stomach, nothing. In your stomach, proteins get broken down. The fats go through into your small intestine, and then you release bile from your gallbladder into your small intestine to break down the fat. Okay, so you digest the fat down into its fatty acids, which are then absorbed into your bloodstream. But here's the kicker. Bile is made in your liver. It is then stored in the gallbladder and released as and when you eat the fat. But you can only make about 800 milliliters of bile a day. So when you eat fat and bile comes into your gut to break the fat down, at a certain point during the day, you're going to run out of bile because you've used it and your liver can't make any more. It makes 800 milliliters a day. That's your maximum. That's it. So if you eat too much fat, what you're eating is fat that is not going to be broken down because you've run out of bile. And fat that is not broken down is not absorbed into your body, which is why you can't get fat from eating fat. You can only get fat from eating sugar, because all the sugar is absorbed, doesn't matter how much you eat, and it gets converted to body fat because it's more sugar than you can use. Then you get fat. The fat that is not digested just goes straight through you and out the other end. And you can tell because your stools float. Right? So have a look before you flush. If they're floating, it means you've had enough fat. You don't need any more fat. If somehow you manage to force yourself to really eat a lot of fat, it's going to keep going through you, and it will make your stools softer and softer and softer until eventually you'll have diarrhea. Now, that's not pleasant. It doesn't matter. Just back off a little bit and it'll sort itself out. If your stools are hard, it's usually because you're not eating enough fat. So make sure you eat just enough fat so that your stools are starting to float. Then you know you've eaten enough. But as I said, if you're properly adapted as a fat burner rather than a sugar burner, and so long as your insulin is under control, your body will tell you when to eat and when not to eat. Make sure that the food you eat is fatty enough. Eat fatty meat, oily fish. If you're going to eat chicken, eat the skin. If you don't have the skin, put butter on it. Put butter in your coffee. Cook with lard, cook with tallow, cook with butter, and you'll be absolutely fine. If you're worried about saturated fat specifically, there's a video down here about saturated fat and the science around saturated fat and the misinformation that we've been fed. That was a pun. Sorry. About saturated fat. Okay, saturated fat is good for you. Fat is not going to make you fat. You're not going to eat too much fat. And if you eat more fat than you need, it's not going to do you any harm. Right, I hope that addresses a couple of concerns. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel. Look at the links of the videos we've got down below. Consider becoming a member of this channel because we do extra videos every week for the members section. Thank you again.